as well. Want to go ahead and thank everybody for joining us. My name is Mark Buckhalter. I'm a member of a resource group called Community Association Resource Group, or we call it affectionately CARG. And we put on these seminars really for education on topics that the participants call us on and they would like to hear about. A lot of times we may have an attorney talking, auditors. Today's topic that we're doing basically is on technology, which is on everybody's mind right now. Just a very brief intro is that, CARG is a consortium of various services that primarily work for associations. So for argument's sake, I do accounting, I do monthly accounting, and all my clients are condos or HOAs, and we do the monthly accounting. We have Brandon Levy from Legacy Insurance on. I would probably say the majority of his clients are all condos and HOAs. So he's an expert in that. And when I say an expert, just like a doctor goes ahead and specializes, and you have urologists and you have cardiologists and you have pediatricians, there's no such thing really anymore as a generalist. People need to specialize. So Brandon's specialty is condos and HOAs. Marcy, who's going to be speaking on cable, she's a cable consultant, and all her clients are condos and HOAs. We have Craig Saxner from Craig, what's your company name again?
Professional Building Services.
Professional Builders, I'm sorry. It's still early in the morning. And Craig also specializes in condominiums. We have Jeff Solomon from Support Depot, and Jeff is our guru marketing and technology person. He assists many associations and association or condominium associations, okay, like CAI, in their marketing and technology. We did bring on two other people. We have Michael Gardner from Sync Systems, and Sync Systems is a management and accounting software company. And so just like for argument's sake, a lot of people might use QuickBooks, which is a very good program, but it's not specific to associations. Sync dedicated themselves specifically to condominiums and HOAs. So if a gas station wanted to use the Sync product, I guess they could use it, but it really wouldn't make too much sense. All right. And then we have Ryan from Host Electronic Voting. And that's like the newest, latest, techiest thing to start doing instead of doing the old-fashioned voting systems for your annual meetings. Host goes ahead and does it electronically. So again, because people are all scattered all over the country or all over the world, instead of having that piece of paper come in with your ballot, you can actually do this all electronically. So they'll be speaking on that. We also have Mark Bluestein, and he's with Marcy from Cable Consultants. Just very briefly, the other people that are not on the call right now that are members, we have somebody from banking from South State. We have ServPro, God forbid if you have water intrusion or mold. We have landscaping, GRC services. We have paving, seal coating, and pavers. We have pest control. That's one of my favorite guys who's not a pest, but takes care of them. Pool services. We have a public adjuster, God forbid if you do have some claims and you need some assistance with that. Roofing services. We have Paul Baines Roofing. And that's basically, that's the group that we have that are dedicated to condominiums. So without further ado, I'm just going to have Brandon give like just a 30-second, just a little intro, what he does, and then we'll have Craig, and then we'll start with program. So Brandon, if you can just tell us all about yourself.
Yeah, okay, so I'll need about 20 minutes, okay? Is that enough?
We have a mute button.
I know they do.
My fingers on the
anyway,
button, Brandon. Fingers on the button.
I'm only joking. No, listen, my name is Brandon Levy. I own Legacy Insurance Associates. I've been in the industry of insuring condos and HOAs for 21 years now. My agency insures, more than 500 associations in South Florida. Insurance is probably becoming the most difficult thing to talk about in condos and HOAs right now because rates are going through the roof and there's so many requirements by boards and for 40-year recertifications and things like that. So I know it's a hot topic. I know it's not a tech topic, but if anything pops up, please ask me. And if anybody needs any a second set of eyes on their insurance renewal coming up, give me a call, email me, call me on my cell, and I'll be more than happy to come out and try to help you guys. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Brandon. You want to, Craig, please tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do, who you are, and how to reach you.
Sure, I'd be happy to. My name is Craig Saxner. I'm with Professional Building Services. We're a full-service janitorial porter service based in Broward County, serving the Tri-County area, celebrating our 41st year in business. The bulk of our work, the majority of it is condos and HOAs. And we also recently opened in the last year and a half or so, a maintenance division as well. We can offer other ancillary services such as power washing, painting, light handyman, etc. And I can be reached, via our website. I'm sure the link will go out, and looking forward to seeing everybody on here.
Thank you, Craig. We have somebody here with a phone number, one of our panelists ending in 2243. Do we know who that is?
That, I don't know.
It's Terry Russo.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hi, Terry. Terry.
I know I
from
sent you
South-
all an email because I'm having internet issues, so I wanted
Okay.
to dial in.
Excellent.
Okay.
Terry, please tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you can be reached. I'm glad you're here. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Terry Russo. I'm with South State Bank, and I am the association lender for the bank. And I know that there may be a lot of questions, especially for Brandon, on insurance because of the roofing situation. But I'm here to help or guide you through any of those roof replacements that they're asking for.
Show me the
And I've
money.
been with the company. Yeah, give you the money. Yeah. I've been with the company for 18 years. So my contact information you can get from card or now. My phone number is 954-829-2243. And I hope this is a very informative session for you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Terry. Terry, thanks so much. And Mark, I see you're here as well, but Marcy is speaking today, so we'll learn a little bit more about community cable consultants in a short bit. So without any other delay, I want to send it back over to Mark. Mark Buckhalter is from AccountSalt Community Association, accounting, consulting, bookkeeping, you name it, he can do it. And if he can't do it, he'll refer you to somebody who is vetted and that he trusts that can. So without, again, any other delay, Mark, let's go over your portion of the presentation today, which is about how you can bring certain techs based on what you do to community associations. Mark, please take it away, sir.
Thanks, Jeff. So, with accounting, when I first started out, we went ahead and we used to use 4-column papers. Then obviously computers came in and it revolutionized everything. But something, it's amazing how some people are still using computers, but not really up to the 21st century. We went through a number of changes, even in our software for our accounting software. We were using various softwares, and then we ended up getting promoted really basically by several banks promoting sync systems. And that's why I asked Sync Systems to come on. And Michael can talk about that shortly. But basically now, even check writing, for argument's sake, is not going to be a wet copy. What happens is individuals can go ahead and come onto a website, password protected. They can look at an invoice in real time. They can go ahead and approve it, disapprove it. They can go ahead and make some comments. If they approve it, we can even have their signature on the check and goes right out. Where that comes in handy is that a lot of the boards basically are all over the country. So it's not even conceivable to go ahead and to have a check first mailed to one party and then mailed to another party and track them down. Here we can do it almost in real time. Individuals, unit owners can go on to their ledger cards, okay, and see their current status of their maintenance, whether they're delinquent, whether they paid. They can pay by credit card, they can pay by e-check, we can pay by electronic fund transfer. So there's so much going on, and it's really going to really involve really talking about with sync systems, okay, and that's one of the premier accounting and management softwares, and they're all integrated. And then we'll go on to Michael, who goes ahead and talks about the electronic voting, which is very popular these days, and not too many people really utilize it, or some people don't even really know about it. So Ryan, I see that your phone is muted. If you can unmute and introduce yourself and just, explain very quickly, give it like a 30-second piece, because we're going to go on to really cable consulting and Jeff's portion, and then we'll talk about it. But I just wanted to introduce you.
Yes, well, thank you. So yes, my name is Ryan. I'm with Host. We're an online voting software. We began in St. Petersburg, Florida, when online voting first came to Florida back in 2016. So our software is to all the associations that are in Florida. Our software is compliant with all the Florida statutes and the DBPR administrative rules. So the software allows you to do is it allows you to vote online, either from your phone or tablet. Essentially any kind of device that can connect to the internet.
From anywhere, which is great.
Yeah. And so by online voting, you're automatically counted towards quorum. So for all your snowbirds who are in Canada or anywhere else and they can't attend the meeting, but voting online, it takes about 5 minutes to vote. And we always like to say that you can vote electronically faster than you can find a stamp.
That's entirely true. And it's anonymous, correct? Like you said, you mentioned that it's concurrent with the Florida statutes.
Mm-hmm.
And can you elaborate on how folks have to opt in, correct? It's not something an association could just say, hey, we're doing electronic voting. People have to opt in for this, correct?
Yes, correct. Yes. So when a voter first logs on to their online voting account, we're going to give them 2 consent forms. So the consent form to opt in to receive email, and the consent form to opt into online voting. And if you're in Florida, the DBPR says that anyone opted in can be a skip paper mailing. So the more people you're getting sign up for online voting, the less paper mailing you have to send out for your ballots.
Right. So it's a great thing for an association to push, and could actually in the long run be a cost savings, not just for the person saving a stamp, but also for the association with regards to paper and printing and mailing and all that kind of thing. So it's got a lot of benefits, correct?
Exactly. Yes. And to what you mentioned earlier with like the secret voting too. We have 2 kinds of voting. So your secret ballots and your non-secret ballots.
Okay.
So for example, your condos in Florida, everything has to be secret. So whenever somebody votes electronically, their name and their address are stripped from the ballot. So that way nobody can know who voted for who. Okay.
That's cool stuff. And the opt-in registration process. Now I'm a techie nerd, as you can see by my background here. I'm into all this nerdy techie stuff. What about the demographic out there that might not be too tech savvy? Is it a pretty seamless registration process if somebody wants to opt in? Maybe briefly go through, if you can, of course. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is the registration process pretty seamless for somebody who may not be too tech savvy?
Oh yeah. So essentially, the system is just walking them through each step. As long as they're clicking on the next button or continue, we're just moving them into the next page. So even when it comes to voting, if there are multiple ballots, once they submit the first ballot, then the second ballot comes up automatically. So just moving them through each step of the way. As long as they can get to the page and vote, it's gonna walk into the steps. And what we find a lot of times, the best way to use online voting, is to have your first vote be like a practice vote or a survey. not use the first vote be your election, because then they might be a lot more hesitant.
Right,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
We want to paint the building either pink or yellow, like choose your color, something that doesn't require like to get a
Exactly.
consensus from the community, correct?
Exactly. So that way your voters can test it out, test the waters,
Yeah.
see if they like it. And then we always find people do.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for that. Mark or Michael, what else do we have to add about what y'all bring to the table here today?
Jeff, I see there's a couple questions specific to the online voting. Do you want to maybe?
Oh, let's see.
start
Yeah,
that?
thank you for bringing that to my attention here. How would the digital voting be audited by the board and separately by the owners? So I guess that means how is it monitored? And that's what Ryan alluded to earlier. And Ryan, I'm going to turn that question over to you, but Ryan did mention earlier that any of these online voting platforms have to be concurrent or follow any of the DBPR guidelines, which is the secrecy and no names and keeping people anonymous. But Ryan, would you elaborate on how would the digital voting be audited by the board and separately by the owners?
Yeah, so if an audit was to be done, one of the features we have is that you can print out all of the online ballots that were submitted. And again, if it's a secret vote, all the names and addresses are removed. So what you can do is you can print out all the e-ballots, and then you have all the paper ballots already in hand. If you want to hand count them all, that's one way to do the audit, to confirm that all the results are were accurately done.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And we'll get to more questions a little bit later. I want to make sure we can get through everybody's presentation first, and then we'll get to some of the questions in the Q&A. Mark and Michael, is there anything else to add on your portions here?
Okay, Michael, you're muted. You just have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Michael is with Sync Systems. He's on the marketing and has been on the tech side also.
Yeah.
So why don't you just tell us, a little briefly about the management component and the accounting component, how it's integrated.
How does all that tech work? How does it work together? How does it benefit the association?
Yeah, so thank you, Mark. Hi there. My name is Michael Gardner, and I'm an account manager with Sync Systems, and that's CINC Systems.
Yeah, not the kitchen sink. We're not talking about the kitchen sink here.
Right. So Sync System is basically a cloud-based management software that was established in 2005. We became the first internet-based integrated accounting and property management system for the community association industry. It was built as an association management solution from the very start. And basically how it works is everything that you deal with on a daily basis, from ACCs, violations, collection statements, coupons, accounts payable, accounts receivable, we're all integrated with partner banks that allow an auto bank reconciliation process to allow you to move forward with your business without you having to manually do those processes. So we have multiple modules, like Ryan McCready just spoke about Host, that is integrated with our customizable websites that we have. We have homeowner and board apps. We also have a Sync Manager app, which allows you to go and do all your violations on OneDrive on your mobile device. The cloud allows us to have as much data in our system as possible without you risking having to download all this information and risking that you're going to run out of data. You don't ever have to worry about running out of data. We're strictly cloud-based, and we handle all things that you usually deal with in your management association lives, basically.
One of the questions that came up, what banks are you integrated with? Are there any fees associated with that might tack on to whatever your cost might be?
So we have a huge list of amount of banks, and I could post some of that information in the chat. It would be a lot to go over, but yeah. So once you do a certain amount of deposits within, it's based off the amount of deposits you do with that partner bank, where the fees are built into that. So if you do so many deposits with the bank, sometimes, I mean, we have a bunch of our clients that the software for Sync is basically free because of all the deposits that they do. That's
Okay.
how we work with our partner banks, where we share that cost.
You know, what's important about, with the partner banks, and that's really what really sold me to go away from some other competitors, was that there's various banks that promote actually Sync. They've tested it, they vetted it, and that's really how I got to Sync. I got to Sync from one of the partner banks that kept on saying to me, Mark, this is software that integrates right into our banking channels.
Yep.
Everything is almost on live. Okay.
Mhm.
So when for argument's sake, when maintenance payments come into a lockbox, it goes ahead and gets loaded right up and uploaded right into the Sync accounting software.
That's correct. Yes, Mark. We have our own Logbox teams in Florida and really all around the country. So homeowner payments that get sent to the lockbox, we upload them into Sync. It gets sent to the bank through our software. When it hits that bank account as a deposit, you're going to see our integration with the bank has a screen just for your bank transactions that show all your credits and debits coming in. That allows you to then look at your check register with your bank register, and whether you're doing a miscellaneous deposit or whatever the case may be, it auto reconciles with what you have on your bank register.
And
So
and the auto reconciliation, if I can just jump in, is so
Yes.
crucial nowadays because of so much fraud that's going on.
Yep.
Years ago, unfortunately, we only were able to find out about that fraud when we did a bank rec at the end of the month.
Mhm.
Now we can go ahead, the following morning, we can get online and we can take a look at the transactions and we can say, something's amiss here.
Right.
We didn't generate that check, for argument's sake. Okay. So it's crucial. And that's why the integration between the banks, and actually South State, which is one of our COG participants,
Yes.
is Terry Russo is a partner bank with Sync.
Yes.
So you would say
And-
that they're in sync together, right?
Right.
Yes, they do.
Sorry. Yeah, bad dad joke,
Yeah.
but I couldn't resist.
Ba-dum-bum.
Yes.
Yeah, so and that's another thing with the bank reconciliation that Mark touched on is with our partnership with the bank, we upload bank statements every month into our software. So it allows you to see if you see a debit or credit for an amount, you're like, what is that? I don't know what it is. You can go to our queue that's within the software where most of your reports for all your violations and everything else and your letters generate to, and you can pull that bank statement and go to that date that you see that amount and see exactly what that description for that deposit or withdrawal was.
Right. And also, for the management firms out there, in addition to obviously getting onto the computer, signing on and getting into the soft management component, you can do this right from your cell phone. So when you're walking around and you see a violation, you take a picture, you upload it, you make some notes, you can do literally everything out of the office. And that's what we're really talking about today, is all the new technology that the
Convenient.
associations and the management companies and the board of directors can avail themselves to. They don't really
Yeah.
have to be dependent. The board members, they don't have to almost be dependent on property managers to get back to them or the accountant. They can go ahead and go right online, and there's total transparency. And this is really what another feature that I like, is that you have so many reports that
Mhm.
board member can go ahead and say, you know what, I want to have this report. I'm curious to go ahead to see, the gate clicker income, or I want to go ahead and see who's not paying, or I want to go ahead and see the violations. You can do this from your computer. You can do this when you're on the cruise ship from your cell phone or tablet. Okay. Again, that's really what we're talking about here, is the newest, best technology out there.
Mark, you're onto
Yeah.
something. We need a community association cruise ship. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Well, I actually have an office on one of the Nod ships. Yes.
Mm.
So if anyone goes ahead and becomes a client of mine, we can have meetings on the cruise ship. Actually, I will invite you.
Yeah, you touched on it briefly, Mark, about the violations from your mobile device or your phone. The technology that we just came out with not so long ago, which was the Sync Manager app. So when you go out and you're taking pictures, you're uploading violations. Let's say you're in a neighborhood where your data service is just terrible and you have no Wi-Fi. So you can't really get anything done without the internet. So we installed an offline mode. So what you do is you download the entire association, all the streets and addresses before you go out to that neighborhood. And because if you know the neighborhood has a bad area and you lose service, you download it, you go through your drive, you do all your violations. When you get back to the office, you sync it, you turn it on online mode, you sync it up, and all that data loads back up into the system, into your database. So you don't have to worry about being offline in a bad area. So that's another good feature to the Sync Manager app. And another feature to that Sync Manager app that's coming is we're going to have a GPS like you do on your phone with like Google Maps, whatever. It's going to be a GPS that points you at each address and where it is on a map. So
wow.
that's coming soon. I think that's in the first quarter next year. But yeah, there's a lot of things good coming to the Sync software that we're really excited about.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's good stuff. Have you ever thought about getting Justin Timberlake as your company spokesperson and Sync?
We got to hit them up. I think they may be a little bit too old for that by now.
All right.
We
No,
really,
that's great. Can Sync generate, we have a question here. Can Sync generate detailed reports of debits by line item and also drill down and see the detail of invoices paid?
yes.
Absolutely. And Mark, you probably can explain that even better than me.
Yeah, what happens is basically invoices go ahead and we get invoices obviously every single day by email. We take that, we go ahead and we upload it, and automatically the board members can go, they'll get a email to say that there's invoices to view and to approve or disapprove. They'll go online, password protected, only for those people that are authorized to see those invoices. And they'll either approve it, disapprove it, or make a comment. At
Cool.
that point in time, you can go ahead and we can prepare the check. If you want to take a look after the fact and you see that there was a check that was written, let's say, to ABC Landscaping, or hopefully GRC Landscaping.
That's better, Mark. Good job.
Right, I caught myself on that. You can go ahead and you can drill down. You can literally, there's a little icon, you can drill down and you can see the invoice that the check was prepared for. So you can do that at any time, in real time or down the road if you're reviewing the financials, let's say a month or two later. Years ago, I used to have to go ahead and call out to the bookkeeper, and I used to yell out, "Goldie, find me the invoice," and she had to go through all these file cabinets. We actually do not have any file cabinets in the office.
You're paperless?
Everything is paperless. Everything is electronic.
I'm impressed.
And again, with Sync, all that information is at your fingertips, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about paperless, we have and I'm not sure if you heard or not, Mark, but we have vendor pay coming up soon that we partnered with Avid and created an opportunity for people to hopefully cut away all the checks that they're, you have those dedicated days where you're sitting there putting checks in an envelope, sending them out. Vendor pay is going to help basically convert those into a electronic payment, whether it be via credit card or a direct pay. More on that to come. It's in the new stages and it's in the beta stage and we're testing it, but it's hopefully going to help that process as well.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing. Sync does stay on the cutting edge. I will say that.
That's great.
I'm just looking at the time. I know we're up against the clock, so maybe what we should do at this point in time is open it up to cable consultants.
Well, I'm going to take it from there real briefly because a lot of what I want to mention today, I'm going to segue into Marcy because a lot of what we do is a lot of synergy there. So I'm going to quickly share a screen here, and I want to just talk about a little bit about technology and communication and community associations. and why this is so important and what you can do to help yourselves out with that. And living in a community association, Mr. Spock, those of you who are Star Trek fans, but if you're not, you probably heard of Mr. Spock. And in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, when the Enterprise was in danger of being destroyed by a planet that was about to explode, and the only way to save the Enterprise was to go into the chamber for the warp drive, where it was certain death. You go in there, you're not coming back out. And Mr. Spock told Captain Kirk that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. And that is and this is why Mr. Spock would have no problem living in a community association, because when you live in an association, there are many, many shared aspects, even if you're in an HOA. Don't think because you're in an HOA and you have a single family home that you're not going to be making decisions that affect everybody. And some of these decisions that are made are going to affect your amenities, maybe roads. If you're in a gated community, you're responsible for the roads that you all share, parking lots. In a condo and co-op, we're talking about roofs, common area landscaping, playgrounds, external service provider expenses, things of that sort. So if you're living in an association, what is in its best interest? Just remember, and Mr. Spock would tell you, it's not always the interest that is best suited solely for you. You must think about the entire association if you're on the board, or if you are in that type of a situation. Just know what you're getting into ahead of time. And some of the effect and communication tools can really help keep the peace in a community association. Mark earlier mentioned transparency and making sure that there are no secrets. Just communicate. And by doing that, it will help dispel a lot of the rumors, innuendos, and quite frankly, I'll just be blunt, a lot of the BS. You're never going to get rid of all of it, but there is lots of technologies available today that can help minimize the amount of BS. One of the aspects is a digital messaging board, for instance. And I've helped some associations have a designated area, like in a lobby, where there's a TV screen. You use a little Raspberry Pi computer, and from anywhere in the world, you can update these screens. It's the same kind of technology, for instance, that you see in restaurants when they have these like digital menus that they can change with a computer from anywhere. You can bring something cheaply, inexpensively into your association. It looks very professional. You can update it from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. You can have stills, video and audio, various layouts, playlists, and scheduling. So let's say you have a ballroom and you're having a comedian come in one night, and you want to publicize that there's going to be Joe Schmo, the comedian, at your ballroom at 8 o'clock, call us for tickets. So you can have screens such as those on there, tell people when the meetings are taking place. And like I said, these things are not budget breakers. A 43-inch TV, you can go to Best Buy and purchase one for $180. I use one for my home theater, just as like I said earlier, I'm a nerd. So I wanted a little digital movie poster screen that I have in my basement area just outside of the theater room. And I send movie posters to it. And the subscription cost me $96 a year. And you could use something like this for your community association as a designated digital messaging center. So for $276 and an internet connection, you can communicate with your association, with your residents and your renters from anywhere in the world. So that's one really inexpensive, easy option.
And something, Jeff, just to jump in, the old-fashioned bulletin boards, people do not really look at it anymore. But something like this, it's interactive almost.
Yeah,
it's colorful, it changes, and you can. I've seen it happen in associations that people flock to this, okay, to get the latest information on their association.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have this substitute 100% for a bulletin board. Definitely speak with your association council if you have it, because Sometimes the internet goes down, the TV can fail. So you don't want that to be your only designated area for posting like the official meeting notice, for instance. Okay. So this would be a supplement. This should be something additional to help make your lives easier in an association, but in my opinion, should not substitute for something like a bulletin board, because again, technology can fail from time to time. And when that happens, you don't want to hear it from your residents, of course. Now, you could also rig an email marketing platform. I'm not going to get into companies. There's so many different companies out there. They're usually very inexpensive. Like for instance, one of the ones that I use for several of the associations that I work with, for up to 500 contacts, it's $12 a month. Now, there are a lot of software platforms out there specifically for community associations that include things like this, but I'm a big fan of keeping things separate, okay? Because like the old days, when you would buy these all-in-one stereos, for instance, the stereo has a turntable, it has a tape cassette deck, a CD player, and your radio tuner all built into one thing. What happens when one aspect of those breaks down or it's down and not working for a period of time? Can't access all of it. You can't access any of it. So if you have a separate, inexpensive email marketing platform you have access to, you can then at least get the word out to your people that, hey, the website is down or the payment portal is down. It'll be back up shortly. So for a very inexpensive cost, you can help with your internal communications in your community association. And you can do things like scheduling your sends to go out at a certain time. Another cool thing is you can see who's interacting with the email. So if you have somebody, you sent the meeting notice, this person claims they didn't get the meeting notice. You can go onto the back end. You can see if the person actually opened it, interacted with it, and see if they're spilling truths or not. I mentioned earlier, it's a great option to keep separate from your website or your software platform. Many of these now integrate with texting applications, so you can text people and have it pop up on their phones. That can be done from anywhere. You can save money also by eliminating currently items that you might be printing, such as community newsletters. So save some bucks there, and you could have multiple users. Now, for associations that send out messages to, you might be asking to your unit owners about meeting notices and official association business. The DBBR protects you. It is up to the unit owner who opts in for this to be sure that he or she is checking their spam folders and that they're getting these. It's not the responsibility of the association. So you're in the clear there, okay? Then we have another method of communication to help keep the peace in your association, and the use of video and hybrid meetings, such as what we're doing today with Zoom. You could have your in-person attendance plus stream or simulcast a meeting, or record it and send it to them later. You could have all kinds of interactivity that way. You could even record meetings like your board meetings, simply for helping to transcribe the minutes later and then delete them. You can produce how-to videos for your residents and staff. You can download, save them, upload them to social media platforms like YouTube, and have your own additional community TV station. And we're going to talk with Marcy about that in a moment next. You could have more efficient meetings with owners, staff, and your service providers. You don't necessarily have to be in the same room. One of the few positive things that came out of COVID is this: we're reaching so many more people now than we could in a small conference room. So it's easier for committees and meeting with part-timers. And this is all relatively inexpensive as well. It's not a big budget breaker for your association. And I know I'm going through this quickly. You could ask me questions later, but I want to leave some time for questions, and we have to turn it over to Marcy next as well. Now, websites, community association websites are fantastic, even if they're not required, even if you're not required to have them. They can help you squash rumors. You can post your frequently asked questions. They can help reduce phone calls in the office and office visits. Mark mentioned earlier, you can reduce paper. You can store association documents, records, forms on a password protected side of your website. You can choose your formats. Maybe you can have maintenance requests go through a software platform or a website like what Sync was talking about earlier, or you can choose to have them print a form and hand deliver it. Everybody's got their personal preferences. You could use your website as a promotional tool for your community to help your realtors out, help your property values. Website could also replace the cost of printing out a monthly newsletter or things of that sort. It can replace the cost of a resident directory. Of course, opt-in is required. You have to get the permission, but it could replace that expense of printing a directory. I also feel and you could also have buttons for your payment portals, things of that sort, calendar of events, and you could update it and maintain it from anywhere in the world. And the last thing I want to mention today before I go to our next speaker and we turn it over to Marcy from Community Cable Consultants is a community TV channel that could also help communication internally in your associations. Your community channel also will help squash rumors, address frequently asked questions, put important phone numbers on there, who to contact for this and who to contact for that, reduce phone calls and office visits. You can update it from anywhere. Oftentimes, and Marcy will address this, oftentimes your community channel might be included in a bulk service agreement that you have for TV or for internet. Things like, if you choose to pipe in music in the background, make sure you have a service that covers your royalty fees so you don't get in trouble for piping in music in the background. You can send messages out like emergency boil water alerts, storm is coming, the elevator is down. Maybe you sell ad space. Maybe a pizza place across the street from your association wants to advertise in your community. If your contract allows for it, you can put ad flyers on your TV channel and make a little extra income. You can replay meetings, some of these platforms even allow live streams like we're doing today. So there are so many options out there to help with your internal communication in your community associations, to help with that transparency that Mark, Ryan, and everybody else mentioned earlier. Now, I mentioned this last aspect, of course, is a community TV channel. Marcy Gershoni from Community Cable Consultants is with us today as well. This is the perfect segue for me to introduce Marcy, and Marcy will explain who she is, what she does, and the kinds of technologies that she can help negotiate for you and your community associations. Marcy, please take it away. I've known you forever, but a lot of these folks don't. Who are you and how do they reach you?
Hi, Marcy,
Thank
can I
you.
just jump in for one quick question? Jeff, there was a question, just who do they contact about digital message boards? That was from all.
In the survey, thank you for that. In the survey that will pop up when this is over, again, I don't personally sell the message boards. I'm just a fan of them. Say that you want me to contact you in the survey after this event today, and I can talk you through some options. It's a wonderful thing, and it's so inexpensive.
Right, thank you. Marcy, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Marcy Gershoni with Community Cable Consultants, and I have Mark Bluestein with me as well. And we both help to represent associations when they're looking to renegotiate their cable or internet agreements, or to put a new agreement in, to add fiber optics to their community. Between Mark and I, you can probably tell we have decades of experience, so we really know what we're doing, and we've been out there doing it for quite some time. We've worked for 3 different major cable companies. So we know the cable companies from the inside out, which is extremely helpful because we know all the tricks of the trade and the right people, to be in touch with. But today, as you can see, technology is more important than ever. A lot of what we've covered today is dependent on really good, secure internet connections. So if the storm recently told us anything, it's that if you're not able to connect to internet, you almost can't live in your home today. We have people that are just, unfortunately, had their properties damaged to the extent that they've lost all of their infrastructure. And it's really sad. But today, a lot of communities have really old infrastructure, and that infrastructure has been compromised over the years. If it's been cut up on their lawns, or the boxes are open and tilting. And when we call on a community today to see what they want to do and what they are looking for moving forward into a new cable or internet program, almost inevitably they want an upgrade in their wiring, unless they're a new community, 10 years or newer. But when we're dealing with communities that have 30, 40, 50-year-old wiring, I'd say the most important thing that you should do is look at what kind of wiring is in your building and how you can get it upgraded at no cost to the association. And this is the key. The providers today are multiple in our area. You probably are familiar with a bunch of them. It's not
Marcy, did you say no cost to the association?
Yes, absolutely no cost. What Mark and I do is we help associations to get free fiber optic build outs, with fiber going all the way into the home, which is the way that any new construction would be built today. And the way to do that is to negotiate for it as part of your renegotiation when your agreements are coming due. So it's just super important. And if you don't know what you can get and what you might be entitled to, it's very difficult to make this work for you. We call on communities all the time that tell us that they asked for fiber optics, they were told it wasn't being done, and then we get it for them without any problem because we know that it is being done and we've done it before at other communities. So I would just say that people today are paying a lot of money for extras that they don't have to. The communities that are offering just cable TV are probably paying bills in excess of $100. And so I'm talking about their individual residents are paying really high additional bills because they're buying the internet, they're buying a router, they're paying to upgrade boxes. And it just absolutely hurts me to see that happen because you can get a package today at an incredibly reasonable price in the 60s for everything, where some communities are paying just that for cable and then have these huge bills on top of it. So we would love to talk to you if you have a cable agreement in place, even if it's got years left on it. We can give you some advice and see what you may be able to benefit from sooner rather than later. If you're coming into a new agreement, that's the time to talk. You really should be looking at this years ahead, at least 2 years if you can, or minimum 1 year from when your expiration date is. Because if you do want to upgrade wiring, you need time to get that wiring put in place. And, I would just say that all of the things we've talked about today that are so exciting, the online voting or the online accounting and accountability, a lot of what Jeff has to offer that makes things so much easier for board members today is all dependent on having good quality internet that gives you good upload and download speeds. Zoom meetings are probably one of the biggest reasons that I get calls today from communities because they're trying to do a Zoom meeting in their regular meeting area and it's just simply not working. And it's because the infrastructure that they have is not sufficient. So we focus on not just bringing the best and most reasonably priced programs, but also the best infrastructure and the most free common area services. And this is something else you really need to be aware of as you're looking at your new agreement. There is no reason that you can't have Wi-Fi throughout your community. So when we were talking earlier about having to turn it on and turn it off when there's dead spots, those things can be taken care of today with technology. You can have Wi-Fi on your beach if you're a beachfront condominium. So we would love to help you explore the options, and there's absolutely no cost to letting us take a look at what you have. And in most cases today, there's actually no cost for our services because the fiber providers will pay a referral fee for just bringing the opportunity to them to serve you. So think in terms of getting the best rates, think in terms of getting the best infrastructure and also the best incentives out there, because we're here for you to try to bring you as much value as we can. And I would just say it's a pleasure to be part of this group. I've been part of it for some time. Because we've been in the marketplace for so long, we're always asked for referrals. And one of the most important things we can do is to connect our customers and our associations to people that we trust, that we know that if we give a referral for an accountant or for a community station or for an insurance agent and all the rest of the services, that we know that they're going to be taken care of. And that is so important to us. So again, we're just very grateful to be here in front of all of you today. And just know these are a fantastic group of people that I would put my reputation on, would do a fantastic job for you if you need help in your community. Now, here, if there's any questions.
Marcy, 2 questions. One, how much lead time do you need from start to finish normally? Because, a lot of times, we have a client of mine that'll, their renewal is coming up next week or in a month, and at that time, it really hampers everything.
It does, but there are auto renews on some of the agreements that are only a year. You typically want to have a signed agreement in place no less than 8 months before the end of the current agreement. That 8 months gives the new provider, if it is a new provider coming in, the time to build the infrastructure, get everyone transitioned over before, so it can be done in an orderly fashion. However, very often we can get you a much better program with the current provider. And then it really isn't as important, Mark, because the transition can happen, during the course of the agreement. Meaning if you have an agreement with Comcast, let's say, and we get you a much better program with them, then it can happen simultaneously. The timing isn't as critical, but we do want to start a year ahead.
Okay. And the other question I know that you and I have talked about over and over about is the towers, the cell towers,
Oh,
Thank
the
you for
cell
bringing
towers,
that up.
yes.
and what that really could mean, the bottom line to an association.
So if you have a cell tower on your roof, not if you want one, because that's a little more difficult, but if you have one currently with T-Mobile or Sprint or AT&T, and you want to look at how you can benefit from that, there are ways today to increase your revenue or to just take a big lump payment up front. I know a lot of associations are hurting today because of recent events and insurance rates going up. We've helped about a dozen associations get six-figure payouts quickly by utilizing the revenue that they have on their rooftop. So again, we'd be happy to just take a look and tell you what your options would be if you are lucky enough to have one of these towers on your roof.
And that's a cash infusion, a lot
Yeah.
of times right up front, hundreds of thousands of dollars that.
Yeah, we've done some that are over, that are in the millions of dollars. So it's definitely worth looking at if you do have one on the roof. At the very
Absolutely.
least, you should let someone take a look at it, make sure you're getting paid what you should be.
Hey, Mark and Mark, ooh, this is a tongue twister. Mark and Marcy, is it okay if I take a question that was texted to me?
Of course.
Okay. Somebody's asking me, what did I mean when I talked about when I was mentioning earlier, when you have your own service provider, and this person is actually referencing Hotwire. I've had so much good experience with, and they were talking about the interactive communication on your screen if you need to send a message. And I actually have experience with that, which is why I wanted to take the question. One of my associations has Hotwire. They're very happy with them. And I was trained just a few days ago, actually, to start doing this for them on logging into their interactive messaging system so that anybody who has any of their converter boxes in their apartments, which they all do, because they have a bulk service agreement with them. And that's something Marcy can help with, as she mentioned. So from anywhere in the world, let's say the elevator is down in that building, in their building, I would log in as the person who manages that for them, which is one of the things I do is, and I can mention that the elevator's down, they're looking at it, use the east elevators instead of the west elevators. You hit send, and then they of course have to be watching on their TV in order to see this. But if they're watching television at that time, we can make it where there's a box on the bottom that shows, the alert about the elevators, or we could also do it with the interactive way where they can go to the message center. They get a little notification that there's a message on their Hotwire system. They hit the button, and it's kind of like when you're in a hotel with the remote, you're interactive, going through the different screens with the different movies you can watch, that kind of a thing. Similar technology where you can read the messages. So I just wanted to speak about that. Just had a great experience and a great training session with somebody from the Hotwire company the other day. So I know a lot of folks that are very happy with it. And that's also something Marcy can help you with if you're not happy with your current situation, correct?
They're a great company that offers a lot of extra services, and that happens to be one of them. But again, they're a fiber to the home provider, and they do, again, have a lot of technology that they can make available to their associations. Mark, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Well, there's a question for you, Marcy.
Okay, perfect.
What if your community doesn't currently have a cell tower? Do opportunities still exist to have one at this time? This person happens to be in the St. Pete area.
So possibly, however, it's the permitting that is the issue. So what's happened is there's been a lot of consolidation in the cell tower industry with companies buying each other. So it's making some of the sites redundant. So it's not the best time to be looking to put a new tower on, but it is a great time to look at potentially selling your tower because, again, I've had towers where they were making a lot of money and then they got bought by another company and that entire revenue stream went away. So I'm sorry, I wish I could say it's an easy thing to do, but it is hard today to get a tower on if you don't have one.
Okay. Mark, you still there? I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had this question on the cell phone earlier.
No problem. I think Marcy's covered basically everything. The only thing I thought you might want to mention is the areas that we cover.
So we're a Florida company. We do business outside of Florida. We're working now on an account in California. We've done some in the Hampshires, New Jersey. But we really cover all of Florida. Primarily, Mark works in the southeast area. I have another gentleman that works on the southwest area that's doing a lot in the Naples, Fort Myers, Sarasota. We have accounts in Orlando, but we're pretty much covering the state at this point, and we really can help you wherever you happen to be located.
Okay. That's good stuff. We appreciate that. We're open. We're going to stay on for another few minutes. If anybody has any questions, type them into the Q&A. We also have Brandon Levy from Legacy Insurance. He's still on the call with us. We have Terry Russo from South State Bank is still with us right now. So even if the question is not necessarily tech related, take advantage of having us all here. Mark B. I know we have a couple. Oh, we have two Mark. I can't even say Mark B. We have a Buckhalter and a Bluestein. Mark Buckhalter, back to you, sir.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Everybody's right now, we're doing budget seasons with every single, client of ours. And the biggest item, unfortunately, is insurance. And Brandon's smiling there or shrieking there because, it's like they say, don't shoot the messenger. The insurance has gotten out of hand. And I know this is really the tech side, really, but really two questions, Brandon, because I know you can talk and talk and talk. Two questions to give a little insight into the insurance. People keep on saying, how much should we go ahead and provide for an increase? My renewal is not for 6 months. You don't have the crystal ball. I know you can't get a quote basically till 30 days before renewal, unfortunately, from the underwriters. But if you were going to give them a guesstimate, from your expert, side, and I know it has a lot of factors in there, whether they got an appraisal, and so on and so forth. But basically, what kind of percentage are you seeing?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good question. I get that question like literally 3 times a day, every day. There are multiple factors that determine what we should and shouldn't put in a budget. If you are with a company called American Coastal, which that company does mostly low-rise buildings that have wood in the roof, and you're lucky enough to be with them, then I would say the range that you should put in your budget for an increase would be between 35 and 45% increase. Okay. Now there are other factors that determine whether or not you're at the 35 level, the 45 level, or even the 25 level. And those are, things about your roof, what proactive things your agent is doing to convince the underwriter that you're a good risk. But just as a general sense on those type of buildings, that's the type of number I would put into a budget. If you are with a carrier, if your buildings are wood in the roof the same way, but you're not with that company called American Coastal, depending upon how much value your buildings are, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 40 million, 80 million, does make a huge difference. So on those type of buildings, again, you could put anything you want in your budget, but I would be using a higher number. I would be using more like 35 to maybe 50 or 60%. Are there some buildings that are coming in higher? Yes, 80, 90, 100%. There's no doubt about that. But, and again, I'm not trying to like promote myself, but it does make a difference on your strategy as an agent and an agency on what you put in front of the underwriters to help them convince the carrier to give you a lower rate increase. So there's so many determining factors and so many different strategies that determine whether or not your rates are higher or lower. But overall, just for a specific budget number, a budget only, for any account, I would not be putting anything lower than 40%.
And obviously that also, the contingency part of that is whether the association has have a recent appraisal. Because if they have
I mean, an appraisal is a part of it, but you know what, Mark, that's becoming less of a factor. It is a factor, but for the older buildings that are in Broward and Miami-Dade, the bigger factor is whether or not those buildings have recertified their buildings, doing the 40 or 50 year recertification. And I've had the account I worked on last night, they had not been recertified. And their increase was going to be 120%. And I went back to American Coastal, and I knew this woman for like 15 years, the underwriter, and I gave them all the details of what the building was proactively doing to get to the 40-year recertification, although they weren't done yet. And I literally begged her, and I was able to convince her to go ahead and write the account, and the increase was only 50%. So I saved them. I know the insured doesn't realize that, but I saved them, 70% of the increase by just negotiating properly. So an appraisal is important, but some of the carriers are just determining what they want to insure it for at this point because of the hurricane that hit.
All right, thank you. Marcy, there was a question that came in. I think you may have just typed it, but maybe it's interesting for everybody else, is that what's a typical length of a cable contract, what it should be?
About 1.5 feet long, the contract.
So you always want to negotiate, obviously, for the most flexibility and the shortest term possible. But some of these agreements are 10-year agreements. However, and this is really important to keep in mind, there's a lot of flexibility within those agreements. You can drop the video at some portion. You can increase speeds, have them built in so that you're not left at the same speed over the 10 years. We would never, do that. We'd always want to have technology clauses in the agreements. Investment to bring fiber optics to your property, and you're not going to want to be switching providers every couple of years. I promise you that. The key is to really go to market and to pick a good company to partner with, and to make sure that your agreement has the ability for future boards to make changes, which happens all the time.
And usually how you need to go ahead and give notice a lot of times to these contracts as a self-renewing.
Yeah, you do. So typically you have a 90-day notification period. That's what we typically see. It could be as long as 6 months. I've seen some as short as 30 days. So you do need to look at your agreement and make sure, but that's something that we do for you. If you do decide to give us a call or reach out, we can take a look at your current agreement, give you some advice, and then make note of certain timeframes that you have to take action within.
All right, terrific.
If you don't mind, Mark, someone also had asked for my number. Do you mind if I just throw my number out there really quickly, and maybe some of you other folks want to do the same, so it makes it easy for them to reach out after?
You could also put it into the chat, and
great idea.
yeah,
Okay.
put it into the chat, and then everybody can see it that way too. And
Okay.
Mark, there's a question for Terry. You want to take that one?
Yeah, I will. Does South State Bank do personal or home equity loans? Yes, they do. Terry's not in that division, but if you call South State in your local branch, they would be able to go ahead and help you. As far as, what's happening now, just on the banking side, these loans are taking anywhere from 30 to 60 days to close.
Harry,
So-
are you still here? I just want to see if you're still with us.
Yes, I'm still here. Mark did a good job, by the way. Good job,
Oh,
Mark.
there you are. Okay, Terry, so why don't you take that then?
Repeat again?
Maybe you can answer. Well, first of all, the one question was, and I know you don't do that, but personal and home equity loans from South State.
Yeah, you answered the question right. The bank does do HELOCs. They do personal, we have mortgages, and we do HELOCs. It's just a different division.
Okay. And again, there's a whole package that needs to be put together. And I know this is getting away from tech, but just in general, associations that are looking to go ahead and to get loans, or even whether it's for the construction because of everything that's happening lately, or even just a contingency line of credit. It is so crucial for most associations to have a contingency line of credit. It's like having a home equity line for an individual homeowner.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And I can tell you, I do have a lot of requests coming in now for draws on the lines due to, what's going on with the your roofing replacements and the 40-year certifications and things like that, because they had the lines in place, already. So they have access to those funds already.
Right. Yeah.
I
No.
was just wondering, Terry, about that, because I have so many of my clients that now are struggling and need money. Is it been, is it still easy like it was maybe last year to get loans for associations so that they can do these projects, or is it more difficult?
No, everything's still the same. I mean, our underwriting guidelines have remained the same. You know, they just take into consideration of the hit on a special assessment to see and make sure it doesn't, and you know, that it's not like 50% higher than what their current maintenance is. But other than that, all our underwriting guidelines are still intact, and I do not have, or I have not seen or had to decline any recently.
And that
For
thing,
any
Mark,
of
that
the
you were
underwriting.
talking, Mark, when you were talking about having a contingency line of credit, I think it's so unbelievably important when you look at it from an insurance perspective, because the insurance companies now, almost, I'd say all of them, they do not offer a 3% hurricane deductible any longer. The minimum is 5%. And now it used to be 5% for the whole year, which is called calendar year. Now some of the insurance companies are changing it to 5% each and every storm. So if you were to get hit by 2 storms, you're talking 5% and 5%. You need money in order to fix your buildings, especially if you are relying upon special assessments to get that money from unit owners, which could take time. So, I mean, your idea of making sure that people have that is so important from multiple perspectives, not only recertification, but God forbid there's another claim like a hurricane like happened on the West Coast. I mean, South Florida would be in big trouble.
And and Brandon, when you talk about 5%, just so that the audience understands, that's not 5% of the damage.
No, that's 5% of what you're insuring for.
Exactly.
So if your building's
an
$10
$80
million,
million building, you got $4 million.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And that's not easily, right now, people are being assessed just to pay their insurance. That's the biggest thing that people are getting crushed on. Insurance going up so much. You imagine you're assessing, these property managers and board members are assessing to pay, raising the maintenance to make up for what they didn't budget properly. And God forbid there's a claim now and a hurricane hits, and now to have to assess to fix the property, forget it. I mean, they have to get that money. They would be very silly not to take the money from the bank and be ready, because if something hits, they're screwed.
Right. We're up against the clock, but Marcy, there was another question here. And I know this is an answer that you probably cannot give definitively, but you can give guidelines, is that it says, what is the ballpark pricing for Wi-Fi cable and bulk agreements?
So the great news is that the pricing is much less than it was years back. You can get a really, really solid program in the 60s to the low 70s, all in, meaning every single thing is included except for tax, government tax. And if you think about what you're paying now just for cable, that may only be $15 or $20 more. And now your residents wouldn't have to pay for all the extras like the DVR, the wireless router, the internet speed. So very, very reasonably priced today, even versus past years.
Right. All righty. We're going to be wrapping this up. The only thing that I just want to give a little advice to the board members and to the property managers. It is budget season. Try to get those budgets in as soon as possible, because you have to give a leeway of 2-week notice normally to go ahead and to do the budget meeting. Then you have to print the coupons. You want to get the coupons in front of everybody in early December so that the monies can start flowing in correctly January 1. Jeff, did you want to pick up on that?
I'm just going to mention that everybody asking for whether this video will be available or emailed to everybody in attendance. Answer sort of. Within a couple of days, it will appear on the CARG website, which is CARG, the number 4, and then the word help, carg4help.org. The video will appear on that website, on our website, within a day or so, probably less. I'm like Scotty on the Enterprise. He'll say, I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. Give me 2 weeks. And he gets it done in about 2 hours. But I just want to give myself a little leeway just in case anything comes up. Laurel, you're asking about Ryan's contact info. I'm going to be sure they have to step off. I'm going to make sure that they get all of the questions and contact So put in, there's going to be a brief survey that comes up, very brief, like 3 or 4 questions when we sign off here. And just mention that you want Ryan or Mark, Marcy, myself, anybody here today to contact you, and we will make sure that they get in touch with you if we don't have the information handy right now. Does that sound good, everybody?
Yes, absolutely. I want to thank everybody for staying on. Literally, everybody that signed on basically stayed on, during this whole presentation. So we can go ahead, and if you would like any particular seminar of an educational purpose for your association and any topic, if you go ahead and you, on that survey, if you put down some suggestions or you have some inquiries on that, we'll develop, if we don't have one already, a seminar to go ahead and as an education and teaching platform.
Sounds great.
Ready?
And that's actually one of the questions as well. And when the survey comes up, it'll have the CARG website, how to get to us, as well as entering some of the information that Mark just asked your input for about courses, presentations. Doesn't have to be for CE credit. Anything goes. Whatever you want to see in the future, let us know about it.
Except for Spock.
I can't do I can do it with my left hand, the live long and prosper thing, but I can't do it with my right hand.
We do have just one comment from a Vicky, unsolicited. It says, we have been using Host electronic voting for 2 years, and it is a great platform. So thank you for that information, Vicky. All righty. In any event, if there's no other questions, we'll let everybody get back to business.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, we do appreciate you spending your time with us today. Brief 3-question survey coming up afterwards. And if you'd like any of our contact information, please mention that in the survey and we will get in touch with you as you request. Thank you so much. And make it a great weekend, everybody.
All right. Take care. Be well.